Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss. He just won his legal battle with the NCAA, meaning he got granted a 6 year of eligibility. I want to ask this: what does this court ruling mean for college football?
The NCAA or the Cowboys said, "Hold my beer," right? And the
Right.
NCAA
Yep.
picked up where they left off. And I think it was Jamie Eisner from our team that tweeted that the NCAA lawyers left in the middle of the judge delivering the verdict. The NCAA lawyers got up and left, which tells you everything you need to know about the NCAA, right? It's a bad for an organization that has made millions and millions, quite frankly, billions of dollars off of the backs of athletes for a very long time. It's amazing to me that you guys can't get a good law team together. That's crazy to me. But this most importantly means that Ole Miss is a contender. I think that's the biggest part of this is if you're running this back, you saw this team, you saw what that quarterback did in that postseason. This instantaneously is keeping this Ole Miss team in contention. And we're going to learn really, really early on because LSU comes to Ole Miss. I think it's week 3 of the season. And
Mhm.
that is going to be the hyped up game of the year, right? Lane Kiffin coming back. They've got a lot of the guys that they kept. Obviously, Keewan Lacey, another guy that's coming back. They spent money to keep guys there. And to me, the biggest part of this is one, it makes the quarterback class for 2027 even more interesting, right? The NFL is salivating over the thought of the 2027 class. I will remind you that you all were doing the same thing over the 2026 class, but that's for a topic for another
And the
conversation.
25 and the
And 25, we
24.
hear this shit every year. So, we won't remind you. We'll just let y'all have fun and play
Yeah.
games together. But back to this. It's the quarterback class conversation becomes even more interesting because you got another player. It's the college football playoff conversation and the Ole Miss conversation becomes very interesting. And the third part is the precedent that this sets, right? And how this is going to impact other rulings that are happening. I think Joey Aguilar is the other quarterback that was dealing with the same thing going at the NCAA. The NCAA at the end of the day has to get its shit together, plain and simple. And there are a lot of things that are going wrong, and they have dug their heads into the sand and decided to not deal with them. And this is kind of all playing out right in front of their eyes. But I was happy to see Trinidad get this opportunity to go back. Personally, I would have left if I was him. I thought he should have rode the wave of this draft class and been able to take an opportunity. It's going to be pretty hard to recreate the magic that he had this postseason in the college football playoff, but we'll see. They have a lot of the same guys going back to the roster. I will caution Ole Miss fans, though. We learned this about LSU and Clemson last year. Just because you're bringing your quarterback back does not make you a contender. College football is in a totally different atmosphere than it has ever been. And we thought coming into last year that it was going to be LSU and Clemson at the end. And neither one of those teams were sniffing the postseason. Not close. So, as much as I'm excited to see what Trinidad can do, I'm also cautiously optimistic based off of what I just watched in college football this past year, Keith.
Yeah, for me, the alarming thing was not about the court ruling with the NCAA. The alarming thing for the NCAA and college football and even the NFL began with Trinidad Chambliss fighting to go back to college football.
Yeah.
And the reason that I say that is because I look back at this and I say, you know what? I don't think that the NFL is the dream anymore. It is a goal, but when we talk about filling the financial obligations, there's enough money in college football now to where guys are not dying to get to the NFL, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not their step to where they're saying, you know what, this is how I feed my family. Because you had a quarterback, right? That in past years he would have declared for the NFL draft and said, you know what,
Oh,
let me ride this momentum and see what I can do, right? Because he led his team to the playoffs. Instead, you had a quarterback forego the NFL, fight for a 6 year, which wasn't guaranteed because he
yeah.
wanted to go back to college football, right? Which we know that there were NIL implications, which I'm not mad with the young man about that, right?
Of
But
course
to
not.
me, it's a signal of, hey, what's going to happen or continue to happen with college football and the NFL? Because I think when you look at it from the NFL perspective, right, how are these young men are going to enter the NFL now? If they're sitting on 10, $15 million, are they as hungry? Something we've never talked about this. Some guys are going to take a pay cut going to the NFL.
Yeah.
Are they going to feel like they're worth it? If you like, because a third rounder to a college football team, right? Let's say use Trinidad Chambliss, for example. A third
Mhm.
round quarterback is worth $5 to $10 million to a college football team. In the
Yeah.
NFL, a third round quarterback is worth $1 million a year,
Mhm.
right? So you're
Mhm.
taking a pay cut now to go
Yeah.
to the NFL. And I wonder what's going to be the mindset for those collegiate athletes as they make that transition. We're getting to very, I guess, different waters, right?
Yeah,
To
for
where
sure.
there's going to be, especially NFL, NFL personnel, us as, when we look at the draft, there are going to be character things that you're going to be able to unfold. And it's going to make it a very interesting process because when we add in the financial implications of this.
I think it's a huge part of it that you brought up. It's also a part that I will caution college football athletes to make sure that they are very cautious about who they hire to be their agents.
Mhm.
Because if I was Trinidad Chambliss and I understood how this game works, I would understand, yes, you got $6 million to go back to Ole Miss, but you probably would have been a first round pick this year if you came out based off of how you played, based off of the storyline, and based off of this draft class lacking a QB2. Okay. And the narrative around him, if he goes in the first round, you're talking about 15 to $40 million upon signing.
Mhm.
Okay. And I understand that the $6 million is a lot of money right now. But if you get injured and forego the opportunity to make generational money, right? And that's the part that the agents that are not NFL agents, they're just NIL agents. They're looking to make a buck right now because they won't be able to make any money when you go to the NFL because they are not NFL contracted agents. And this is an issue that is now happening in the NCAA at a high level. You and I have talked about this a lot off the show, but it's something that parents need to be very wise to the situation because there is no union. There is no test that needs to be taken. You can be anybody and negotiate NIL deals with the colleges. And it's part of the problem the college is dealing with because they're getting hit up by 17 different people telling them that they represent a player. And the example of Nico, right? The quarterback that left Tennessee, he lost money. He was going to make more money set to play at Tennessee. His father or uncle or whoever behind the scenes goes behind the coach's back and it backfires. So, yes, there's part of this. There's a lot. I'm saying all this to say this is a very complex situation, right? There's
Mhm.
a lot of things that need to be fixed, be discussed. And we care a lot about the athletes and the parents and helping you be guided through this situation. And the best advice I can give you throughout this process is if I'm hiring somebody, I'm hiring somebody that has an NFL agent. Because at the end of the day, if the goal is to get my kid there, I'm not hiring anybody else because they don't have the backing, they don't have the understanding, and they don't have the knowledge to negotiate when you get to that level. And it's going to become very interesting. I hope that college football gets its act together soon, but I know better. The NCAA is not going to get its act together, and it's going to take a while before we have any level of set of rules as far as who is an agent and who can represent a player in college.
Yeah, nah, this will be a 5, 10, 15 year
Yeah.
process. But I think the saying, right? Cash rules everything around me
Yep.
reigns true, right? Once
Yep.
again, especially with this situation.